Hello again, Father Norm Douglas, reflecting through a faith perspective on some of the issues of our day. This one, probably a lot of you can relate with. Have you been feeling angry at any way recently? Have you taken that anger out on someone else? What are the core issues behind your anger? It seems like a lot of people today, with the times we're in and the feelings of insecurity and differences of perspective with people, that people flare up, get angry, get hostile in their conversations with one another. There's probably a lot of factors in that, but I just want to briefly talk about one particular thing that maybe affects us all that we don't realize as much in terms of anger. And it can be right in your own home with your kids or your elderly parents or whoever. For me, gosh, a number of years ago, when there was an economic downturn, uh, at the time, I was the executive director of Heart to Heart Communications, and because of the economic downturn, there were some financial concerns. Would we be able to survive as a nonprofit organization, helping people connect their faith and values with their work life? And I remember my co-founder with Heart to Heart, Larry Milliman, who was an attorney, came in to see me this one time when I was in the office alone, and just began to ask a few questions about our finances and about whether we were going to make it. And I remember I flared up at him immediately. I became very hostile. Why are you putting me down? I'm trying to do the best that I can. This is a tough job. Maybe I wasn't cut out to be the executive director. I went on and on. But in the course of doing that, I blasted Larry. I said, you should be more supportive of me rather than critical, because he asked something about some financial issues. And then, of course, he got mad, and we were both raising our voices with one another. And here we were, the best of friends for many years, but wow, what a flare up. And it was intense, you know. And then I said to Larry, we got to hash this out. Stay here. And he said, no. He said, if you're going to be like that, I'm leaving. And so he up and he left the office. I was angry about that. I thought we weren't done talking about this and getting this resolved, and certainly getting him to see my perspective, my opinion, and why I had every right to be angry, including at him and for that matter, angry at the world because of all the things going on at that time with an economic downturn. Well, when he left, when I did, and I think this is very important for all of us when we look at our anger, is to step back. And the whole time Larry was there, I was looking at him, blaming him, saying he was the cause of me feeling angry, frustrated, confused, and it was his fault. And so when I stepped back quietly, I did go to prayer. Probably not right away, probably for a few moments I was still angry at him and blaming him. But when I went to prayer, it was like God saying to me, Norm, what's that really all about? What's going inside of you that led you to be so prone to anger so quickly at a good friend? And I spent some quiet time there. And part of me wanted to escape that prayer because my own ego wanted to hold on to my own point of view. But as I prayed and reflected, and God helping me to get real with myself, part of prayer isn't only to pray to God and say, God, answer my prayer. But I know a big part of prayer is letting the Lord speak to us, letting the Lord go deep in our heart and soul to see, maybe to see some good things in us we don't see when we put ourselves down, but maybe to see some part of us that we don't want to see, that we want to blame on everybody else, and not realize, hey, there's an issue in here I need to name, face, ask forgiveness, and give the proper response. So after a period of time in my prayer, I was able to realize, hey, Larry didn't do anything wrong. He came in to see me in the office. He asked a few questions about finances. The deeper issue that I got in touch with is that he pushed my button, but it was my button of feeling insecure and inadequate as the executive director of Heart to Heart Communications. And out of that, rather than naming my fears, my insecurities, I just became resentful and projected it all on Larry and got what I thought was legitimately angry. Wonder how many of us, especially in the circumstances these days, do that. And for me, the good thing was that I could call him up. I did. It was probably an hour after he left. And when I called him up, he wasn't sure he wanted to talk to me where I was going to go with this. Do I want to just continue being angry in the conversation because he left? And I said, no, Larry, I'm glad you left. That conversation wasn't going anywhere. In this particular case, I said, I realize it now. I was feeling inadequate and insecure. You brought up something about what I was feeling insecure about, and I got immediately defensive, immediately protective, and immediately resentful of you. Probably because you were pushing something in me that I didn't want to see and didn't realize it at the time. And so I apologized, and we were able to work through it in a good job. And he admitted that, yeah, he got overly angry, but understandably because my voice was raised. But he said, you know, I probably could have stayed calmer and everything, but obviously I was angry. And as he said, getting in touch with his anger, part of it was a hurt, that he was hurt that I would attack him. And we were such good friends and put him down and say anything I was going through was all the fault of him. Hey, we both worked it out. Eventually, we prayed together and we got over that quickly. But I know some people who've been angry. I've talked to them through the years, whose anger has stayed for years and years. People can't even remember exactly why they were angry at all. Today, a lot of that is happening, and I think we all need to first of all, instead of getting angry at other people because they see things differently than we do, maybe there's some even legitimate gripe we have. Can we stop, be more prayerful? You know, there are strong differences in our country today. And we might say, well, that's the issue. People have strong, intense differences about a lot of subjects. Well, yes, that's a concern. On the other hand, might the issue also be that with our differences, we haven't learned how to really have a kind of conversation where instead of me pushing my point of view and being upset and you doing the same, we really each try to seek to understand what the other person is saying and why they're saying it. So often there's a story underneath our anger, as there was with Larry and me. And some anger can come out of hurt, out of fear, out of feelings of inadequacy, out of not wanting other people to see me the way I really am, and to acknowledge that. I know for me, as a Catholic priest, that's an issue. I certainly didn't even want people to hear that Larry and I argued and it was my fault, that I really started it. And at first, I even said to Larry, oh, let's not tell anybody this. But after getting through that and that ego check, I realized, hey, you know what? I should mention this to other people back then and even now to see that, hey, we can try to be holy. We can, in most of the time, be pretty centered, be pretty laid back, be pretty peaceful. I am most of the time. But that one time, and I want to hide it, that's a feeling of inadequacy. The reality I've come to realize as a priest, and we all should, hey, I'm imperfect. I fall short. Not to excuse that, but on the other hand, to be my best. And when I fall short, to name it for what it is, to ask the Lord's mercy if that's what I need, and to talk to the other person where I need to say, I'm sorry, this was so much about me. And I've seen that through the years, when people can do that, they can talk with each other and admit their frailty, admit their fear and hurt underneath the anger. Hey, that's not a simple solution to every angry moment that any of us have, but it reminds us whatever we do, whatever we're going through and the way we relate to one another, even with all these differences, that we need to, first of all, not look at the other person and say, what's wrong with them? We need to, first of all, look inside of ourselves and say, okay, again, maybe legitimate differences, but why am I so hostile? Why am I so negative? Why am I so bitter that I absolutely have to have the person see it my way? And more than likely, I know for me, that happens because, yes, my ego wants to win the argument, gain control, have the other person see it my way. We all, beginning with myself, need to be more humble in our conversations and realize that other people may have some perspectives we need to hear. We might still be different, but those differences, rather than always threatening each other, maybe help us to better understand whatever the situation is, to better understand each other, and through that all love one another. Take a moment and kind of look at any anger you've had. Is there anything within that anger that you're hearing that maybe God wants to tell you for your own sake and for how you relate with others? God bless, and let's go forward with our differences in a way that's not hostile, but in a way where we pick each other up, we don't put each other down, where we help each other to see ourselves and not tear each other apart. Quiet moment, think about it. God bless.